Imagine this. Your engine sputters, dies, and you're stranded. It's 2 a.m., the desert wind howls, and the only light is the faint glow of distant stars. But you're not alone. The asphalt whispers secrets, and things emerge from the shadows, waiting. Tonight, we're revealing the chilling protocols of the midnight mechanic, the unspoken pacts that govern survival when the road truly comes alive. The highway stretches before you like a ribbon of black glass, empty and infinite. During daylight hours, these roads are nothing more than arteries of commerce and travel, carrying families to vacations and trucks to distribution centers. But something fundamental changes when the sun dips below the horizon. The rules shift. The boundaries between what we understand and what lurks beyond our comprehension begin to blur like headlights through fog. There exists a community of night drivers who understand this transformation intimately. Long-haul truckers, midnight shift workers, and those unfortunate souls whose schedules demand they traverse these lonely stretches when most sensible people are asleep. Among them, whispered conversations reveal a shared understanding that the highways after dark operate under a different set of laws entirely. My name is Raymond Torres, and for 15 years I drove freight across the American Southwest. What I'm about to share with you comes from countless nights spent on roads that seem to breathe, that seem to watch, that seem to remember every traveler who ever passed through their domain. This is not fiction. This is survival knowledge passed down through generations of night drivers, and ignoring it could cost you everything. The psychological transformation begins subtly. Scientists call it pareidolia, the tendency of our minds to perceive meaningful patterns in random stimuli. That rock formation becomes a crouching figure. That cluster of tumbleweeds morphs into something approaching your vehicle. Your headlights create shadows that twist and dance in ways that feel intentional, almost malicious. But here's what the scientists don't tell you. Sometimes those patterns you're seeing aren't products of your imagination at all. The desert highway at night creates what researchers call the ghost light effect. Temperature differentials between cooling asphalt and frigid night air cause light to refract in impossible ways. Distant vehicle lights appear to hover, multiply, or vanish entirely. Stars seem to dip down to road level. Lights from towns that don't exist on any map flicker invitingly in the distance. Most of these phenomena have rational explanations. Most, but not all. I remember the first time I experienced the shift. It was August of 2009, somewhere between Flagstaff and Kingman on Interstate 40. The clock on my dashboard read 2:47 a.m., and I was running behind schedule. The desert stretched endlessly on both sides, punctuated only by the occasional Joshua tree standing sentinel against the purple sky. That's when I saw them. A road crew appeared in my headlights approximately half a mile ahead. Orange cones, work lights, the silhouettes of workers in reflective vests. Standard highway maintenance, I thought. Nothing unusual. Except when I reached the location 30 seconds later, there was nothing. No cones, no lights, no workers. No indication that anyone had been there at all. I slowed down and checked my mirrors. The road behind me was as empty as the road ahead. What truly disturbed me wasn't the vanishing crew. It was what I found 3 miles further down the highway. A collapsed section of asphalt, a sinkhole that had opened without warning, deep enough to destroy any vehicle that hit it at highway speed. That phantom road had appeared exactly where I needed to slow down to survive. Something had warned me. This is the paradox of the midnight highway. The entities that inhabit these spaces aren't always malevolent. Some seem almost protective, guardians of travelers who respect the unspoken protocols. But others, the ones that emerge when you break the rules, they are something else entirely. They are hungry, they are patient, and they have been waiting on these roads far longer than any highway has ever existed. The indigenous peoples who lived in these desert regions for thousands of years knew about these entities long before the first road was paved. They called them by different names in different languages, but the warnings were consistent. There are things that travel the paths between places, and those things must be treated with respect. Modern highways simply gave them new territories to patrol. What you must understand is that the rules I'm about to share with you are not suggestions. They are not folklore designed to frighten new drivers. They are protocols established through trial and error, through disappearances never explained, through survivors who learned what happens when the rules are broken. Veteran night drivers know these rules instinctively. They teach them to newcomers in hushed tones at truck stops and rest areas, always with the same warning: follow the rules and the highway will let you pass. Break them and you become part of the road's collection. The wind picks up outside my window as I write this, and even now, retired from driving, I feel the familiar tension that comes with darkness falling. The highways are waking up out there. Engines are cooling, headlights are cutting through the gathering shadows, and somewhere on a stretch of empty asphalt, someone is about to learn that they should have paid attention to the warnings. In the next part of this account, I will share the 3 fundamental rules that every midnight traveler must know. These are the laws that govern your survival, the protocols that determine whether you see the sunrise or become another story whispered in rest stops for generations to come. But be warned, once you know these rules, you cannot unknow them, and the highway will know that you know. The rules came to me gradually, passed down through a network of drivers who understood that knowledge meant survival. My mentor was a man named Victor Delgado, a 62-year-old trucker who had been running overnight routes since the 1970s. He had seen things that turned his hair white by the age of 30. He taught me everything I know, and now I'm going to teach you. Rule number 1, never stop for a lone figure waving a red cloth. This warning sounds specific because it is. The red cloth phenomenon has been reported on desert highways across the Southwest for over a century, predating automobiles entirely. Victor told me about an encounter from 1987 when he was running a route through New Mexico. Around 3 a.m., his headlights illuminated a woman standing on the shoulder waving what appeared to be a red scarf. She was dressed in clothing that seemed decades out of date, and her movements had a jerky, unnatural quality that made his skin crawl. Victor's instinct screamed at him to keep driving, but protocol demanded he check on stranded motorists. He slowed down, and that's when he noticed the woman wasn't casting a shadow, despite his headlights shining directly on her. The moment his truck came to a complete stop, she smiled. Her teeth, Victor said, were wrong, too many of them, and pointed like needles. He floored the accelerator and never looked back. The red cloth is a relic from highway robbery tactics used in the 1800s when bandits would flag down stagecoaches under the pretense of needing help. The entities that now use this technique have adopted the method, understanding that human compassion creates vulnerability. They wave that crimson signal and wait for someone kind enough or foolish enough to stop. If you see someone waving red cloth on a deserted highway after midnight, do not slow down. Do not make eye contact. Keep your eyes on the road ahead and maintain your speed. Most importantly, do not check your mirrors afterward. Some drivers report that looking back reveals the figure running after them at inhuman speeds, closing the distance no matter how fast they drive. Rule number 2. If you see a tow truck without official markings, keep driving. The phantom tow truck phenomenon is more recent, emerging in reports from the 1960s onward. Unlike the red cloth entities, these manifestations have adapted to modern times, understanding that a stranded motorist will find comfort in the sight of roadside assistance. They appear as older model trucks, usually from decades past, with faded paint and no company logos. The drivers are always silhouettes, never fully visible, despite interior lights that seem perpetually dim. A woman named Patricia Hendricks shared her encounter with me at a truck stop in Barstow. Her car had overheated on a remote stretch of Highway 95, and within minutes a tow truck appeared in her rearview mirror. Relief washed over her until she noticed details that didn't add up. The truck made no sound. Its headlights produced no beams, just faint glowing circles. The driver never left the cab, simply gestured for her to approach. Patricia's phone chose that moment to ring, a wrong number that she answered anyway. The mundane conversation lasted 30 seconds, and when she looked up, the truck was gone. No departing lights, no engine noise fading into the distance, simply gone. She called actual roadside assistance and waited 3 hours for help, but she made it home alive. The tow truck she nearly approached was never found in any registry. The phantom tow trucks offer help that comes with a price never specified. Those who accept their assistance are found days later, wandering the highway in a daze, missing time they cannot account for. Some are never found at all. Their vehicles are discovered abandoned, engines running, doors open, but the drivers have vanished as completely as the trucks that took them. Rule number 3. Beware the road crew that leaves no trace. This is the phenomenon I witnessed that first night in 2009, and it remains the most complex of the 3 rules. Unlike the first 2, the silent road crews are not always dangerous. Some appear as warnings, manifesting before approaching hazards to slow approaching traffic, but others serve a different purpose entirely. Victor told me about crews that appear to be working on roads that need no repair, digging into asphalt that shows no damage, filling holes that don't exist. These crews operate in complete silence. Their equipment makes no sound. Their work lights illuminate nothing beyond their immediate vicinity. And if you stop to ask what they're doing, they turn toward you with faces that are blank. Not expressionless, blank. Smooth skin where features should be. A trucker named James Forsyth stopped for one of these crews in 1994. He thought they were blocking the road and wanted to ask about a detour. When the workers turned to face him, he saw that they had no eyes, no mouths, no noses, just smooth, pale flesh stretched over the suggestion of skulls. He screamed, threw his truck into reverse, and backed up nearly a mile before he trusted himself to turn around. The crews that leave no trace are believed to be maintaining roads that exist somewhere else, parallel highways that overlay our own, visible only during certain hours under specific conditions. When they appear, you must not interfere with their work. Do not honk, do not flash your lights, do not stop. Simply navigate around them if possible, or wait at a safe distance until they vanish. These 3 rules form the foundation of midnight highway survival. They have been tested over decades by drivers who had no choice but to learn through experience. Some paid for that knowledge with their sanity, others paid with more. But the rules are only part of the equation. Understanding why the highway spawns these entities, understanding the history and the patterns gives you power over fear. Knowledge is armor against the darkness. And in the next part of this account, I will share the case files, real encounters, documented and verified, that illuminate the true nature of what patrols the asphalt after midnight. The night is listening. Make sure you're prepared to answer. The stories I'm about to share have been collected from verified sources, cross-referenced with multiple witnesses, and documented by researchers who specialize in roadway phenomena. These are not urban legends. These are encounters that left evidence, witnesses, and in some cases permanent marks on those who survived them. The first case involves the vanishing trucker of Route 66, a phenomenon reported with remarkable consistency since 1972. The witness accounts describe an 18-wheeler of indeterminate make, always seen traveling westbound between Amarillo and Albuquerque during the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. The truck appears suddenly in driver's rear-view mirrors, approaching at impossible speed, headlights blazing with intensity that seems to burn. A man named Thomas Wyatt documented his encounter in a detailed journal entry from 1998. He was driving a delivery route he had completed hundreds of times when the truck appeared behind him. The lights were so bright that his mirrors became useless, and he could feel heat radiating from somewhere behind him, despite the air conditioning running full blast. He accelerated to 90 miles per hour, but the truck matched his speed exactly, maintaining a distance of approximately 20 feet. Thomas tried to let the truck pass, moving to the shoulder, but the truck matched his movement. He slowed down, and the truck slowed down. For 47 minutes, according to his odometer, the truck followed him in perfect synchronization. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. No departing lights, no sound of an engine pulling away. Thomas pulled over and walked back nearly a quarter mile, but found no evidence that another vehicle had been there. His rear bumper, however, was warm to the touch. Research into this phenomenon revealed something disturbing. The description matches a truck that crashed on that stretch of Route 66 in 1971, killing the driver instantly. The driver, a man named Robert Chen, was never recovered from the wreckage. His body was simply gone when rescue workers arrived. Some believe he's still driving that route, stuck in an endless loop, following travelers who remind him of the journey he never completed. The second case takes us to the Mojave Desert and the phenomenon known as the muted musicians. Near the ruins of an abandoned roadside attraction called Desert Dan's Frontier Fun, Travelers report hearing music that has no source. Not just any music, but full orchestral performances, jazz bands, and in some cases, what witnesses describe as singing in languages that don't exist. Elena Cortez was a long-haul driver who specialized in overnight runs through the Mojave. In 2003, she pulled over near Desert Dance to rest her eyes, a mistake she would never repeat. Within minutes of stopping, she began to hear what sounded like a big band playing somewhere in the ruins. Trumpets, saxophones, the works. But the music was muffled, as if playing underwater or through several walls. Elena's curiosity got the better of her. She approached the ruins with a flashlight and found nothing but collapsed wooden structures and sand. But as she turned to leave, her flashlight beam caught something that stopped her cold. Footprints in the sand, fresh ones, forming a pattern consistent with dancing. Dozens of pairs of feet, all wearing what appeared to be formal shoes from the 1940s. The footprints led to a section of collapsed building and vanished into the rubble. The muted musicians are believed to be residual hauntings, echoes of events that occurred when Desert Dance was a thriving entertainment stop in the mid-20th century. But Elena's encounter suggests something more active, something that still dances in those ruins, still plays music for audiences that can no longer be seen. She never stopped near that location again, but she reported hearing the music every time she passed, growing louder the closer midnight approached. The third case involves the most enigmatic phenomenon of all, the unseen pothole patrollers. Unlike other highway entities, these beings seem genuinely beneficial, appearing to repair roads before accidents occur. But their methods and origins remain completely unknown, and those who investigate too closely often regret their curiosity. A highway patrol officer named Kevin Brightwater documented a series of encounters in 2015. He was assigned to a remote stretch of Nevada highway that had been plagued by sinkholes and surface collapses. One night, responding to a call about workers on the road, he arrived to find a crew operating machinery he didn't recognize, filling a hole that hadn't been there during his previous patrol. Kevin approached to check their work permits, standard procedure for any road crew operating in his jurisdiction. The workers ignored him completely, continuing their silent labor. He called out, shined his flashlight on them, even touched one on the shoulder. The figure he touched was cold, impossibly cold, and when it turned to face him, Kevin saw his own reflection where eyes should have been. Twin mirrors set in gray flesh, showing him his own terrified expression. He ran back to his cruiser and radioed for backup. By the time additional units arrived, the crew was gone, but the repair was real. The hole that had been open and dangerous was now seamlessly filled, the asphalt smooth and solid. Road crews from the county confirmed they had no workers in that area. No permits had been issued. No equipment was checked out. The pothole patrollers seemed to operate outside human awareness, maintaining roads for reasons that remain mysterious. Some theorize they are protecting travelers. Others believe they are maintaining the paths for their own purposes, ensuring the paths remain clear for entities that travel them for reasons we cannot comprehend. These case files represent only a fraction of the documented encounters. Every year, new reports emerge, New witnesses come forward. New evidence suggests that our highways, particularly after midnight, are shared spaces. We are not the only travelers on these roads, and the entities that join us follow rules that we are only beginning to understand. In the next part, I will examine the evidence more closely, separating genuine phenomena from misidentification and hoax. The truth is out there, hidden in dashcam footage and trucker testimonies, waiting to be uncovered. The line between fact and fiction on the midnight highway is thinner than most would like to believe. For every genuine encounter, there are dozens of misidentifications, hoaxes, and simple tricks of exhausted minds. But dismissing all phenomena as imagination is just as dangerous as believing everything you hear. The truth, as always, lives somewhere in the shadows between. Cold spots remain one of the most commonly reported phenomena. Drivers describe sudden drops in temperature inside their vehicles, often accompanied by feelings of dread or being watched. The rational explanation involves air conditioning malfunctions, open vents, or temperature differentials when driving through valleys and low-lying areas. These explanations satisfy most incidents, but some cold spots defy easy answers. A research team from the University of New Mexico investigated a stretch of Highway 285 where cold spot reports were unusually concentrated. Using calibrated thermometers and sealed vehicles, they documented temperature drops of up to 15 degrees that lasted exactly 30 seconds before normalizing. No mechanical explanation could account for the consistency. No atmospheric conditions explained the precise duration. The team also noted that their recording equipment malfunctioned during each cold spot, producing static that, when analyzed, contained what sounded like whispered words in an unidentifiable language. Vehicle malfunctions represent another category of phenomena that straddled the line between mechanical failure and something else entirely. Engines dying, electrical systems failing, dashboard lights flickering in patterns that seem intentional. Most of these issues trace back to poor maintenance, electrical shorts, or fuel problems. But a subset of malfunctions demonstrates characteristics that mechanics cannot explain. Rebecca Thornton was a skeptic before her encounter in 2018. Driving a 2-year-old car with no prior issues, she experienced a complete electrical failure on a remote stretch of Arizona highway. Every light, every gauge, every electronic component went dark simultaneously. She coasted to the shoulder, her engine dead, her phone showing no signal. For approximately 4 minutes, she sat in complete darkness, unable to see anything beyond her windows. Then her radio turned on by itself, playing a song she had never heard, performed by what sounded like a children's choir singing in minor keys. The lyrics, she later recounted, described someone watching from the desert, someone waiting for travelers who stopped too long. Before the song ended, her car's systems restored themselves completely. The engine started without prompting. Her phone suddenly showed full signal. She drove away at maximum speed and didn't stop until she reached a well-lit gas station 40 miles away. Dashcam footage has become an invaluable tool for separating genuine anomalies from explainable events. Most supposed evidence reveals lens flares from oncoming traffic, insects illuminated by headlights, or reflections from road signs, but a small percentage of footage defies easy classification. A compilation analyzed by paranormal researchers in 2020 included 17 clips that could not be explained through conventional means. One showed a figure standing in the center of a highway that vanished between frames, leaving no trace. Another captured what appeared to be a vehicle driving parallel to the recording car, matching its exact speed, but the vehicle was translucent, with no visible driver and no wheels touching the ground. A third clip recorded audio that shouldn't have been possible. Voices inside an empty cabin discussing the driver by name, despite no one else being present. The testimonies of long-haul truckers and night shift workers provide perhaps the most compelling evidence. These are professionals who spend countless hours on dark highways, who have every incentive to remain skeptical and rational. Their reports, collected over decades, reveal consistent patterns that transcend geography and time period. Nathan Rodriguez drove trucks for 38 years before retiring. In an interview, he described a hierarchy of highway entities that experienced drivers learn to recognize. The warning ones, like the phantom road crews that appear before hazards, seem bound by rules that prevent them from directly interacting with travelers. The dangerous ones, like the red cloth figures and phantom tow trucks, seem to require some form of consent or invitation before they can harm. The most dangerous entities, Nathan explained, are the ones that don't follow any recognizable pattern. These are rare encounters, but when they occur, they leave survivors fundamentally changed. He described meeting a woman who had encountered one of these unpredictable entities in 1999. She had aged 20 years in a single night, her hair turned white, her eyes carrying 1,000-yard stare that never fully faded. She refused to discuss what she had seen, saying only that some things on the highway don't have names, because naming them gives them power. The analysis of evidence points to an uncomfortable conclusion. While many reported phenomena have mundane explanations, a residual category of encounters defies all rational interpretation. Something exists on these highways after dark, something that follows rules we can observe but not fully understand. Something that has been there long before the roads were built and will remain long after they crumble to dust. This brings us to the crucial question: how do you survive? The rules I shared earlier form the foundation, but survival requires more than rote memorization. It requires understanding the psychology of fear, maintaining mental fortitude, and knowing when to trust your instincts over your rational mind. In the final part of this account, I will share the protocols that have kept me alive through 15 years of midnight driving, the practices that allowed me to see countless sunrises that others were not fortunate enough to witness. The night is deep now, and the highway is calling. Will you answer? The most important survival protocol has nothing to do with the supernatural. It concerns the machine you're driving and the systems you rely upon to reach your destination. A well-maintained vehicle is your first line of defense against everything that lurks on midnight highways, both natural and otherwise. Before any night journey, check your fuel level, tire pressure, oil, and coolant. Ensure your phone is fully charged and you have backup power sources. Carry emergency supplies, including water, food, a flashlight with extra batteries, and a first aid kit. Inform someone of your route and expected arrival time. These mundane preparations might seem disconnected from supernatural concerns, but they serve a crucial purpose. The entities that patrol the highways are attracted to vulnerability. A stranded motorist with no resources is infinitely more exposed than one prepared for emergencies. The phantom tow trucks prey specifically on those whose vehicles have failed. The red cloth figures target drivers who feel obligated to stop. By eliminating the situations that would require you to stop, you eliminate the opportunities for these entities to engage with you. Keep your vehicle running smoothly, and you maintain the ability to follow the most important rule of all: keep moving. Mental fortitude represents your second crucial defense. The psychological assault of driving alone through darkness for hours cannot be underestimated. Fatigue, isolation, and the hypnotic monotony of empty roads create a state of vulnerability that the highway seems to exploit. You must actively combat this degradation of awareness. Rotate through strategies to keep your mind engaged. Talk to yourself out loud, describing what you see, narrating your journey. Play podcasts or audiobooks that require active attention rather than passive listening. Make planned stops at well-lit, populated rest areas every few hours to break the spell of the road. Never push through exhaustion. Tired drivers make poor decisions, and on the midnight highway, poor decisions carry consequences far beyond a traffic accident. When fear arrives, and it will arrive, recognize it as information rather than weakness. Your primal instincts evolved over millions of years to detect threats. If something feels wrong, if your gut screams at you to avoid a certain exit or accelerate past a particular stretch of road, listen. The rational mind will try to dismiss these warnings as irrational. Override that dismissal. Survival depends on trusting the ancient wisdom encoded in your nervous system. I remember a night in 2014 when every instinct I possessed told me to take an alternate route through Nevada. The highway I normally drove was faster and more direct, but something felt deeply wrong about taking it that night. I added 2 hours to my journey by choosing different roads, and I spent those hours questioning my decision, calling myself foolish, calculating the fuel I was wasting. The next morning, I learned that a section of my normal route had collapsed during the night, a sinkhole that opened without warning, swallowing a truck and trailer at approximately the time I would have been passing through. The driver survived, but spent months in the hospital. My instinct had saved me from that fate. I never questioned those feelings again. The dawn brings more than light. It brings a psychological reset that every night driver learns to anticipate and treasure. As the first gray threads appear on the eastern horizon, the weight of the night lifts. The shadows lose their depth. The shapes that seemed threatening resolve into rocks and plants and road signs. The highway transforms from a hunting ground back into a simple path of asphalt and painted lines. But do not mistake the dawn for complete safety. The transition period, those minutes when darkness and light battle for dominance, can be more dangerous than full night. Entities that avoided engagement during the dark hours sometimes make final attempts as their time runs short. Stay vigilant until full daylight arrives. Do not relax your protocols prematurely. I drove my last midnight run in 2019. Age had caught up with me, and my reflexes were no longer what they once were. On my final night, I stopped at a rest area near the Arizona-California border to watch the sunrise. As I stood outside my truck, coffee in hand, I saw something that has stayed with me ever since. A figure stood at the far end of the parking lot, watching me. It was not threatening in its posture, not menacing in its attention. It simply observed. The figure was wearing what appeared to be old-fashioned clothing, and its form was indistinct, as if seen through fog despite the clear air. As the sun crested the mountains, the figure raised one hand in what might have been a wave, or a farewell, or a warning for whoever would take my place on these roads. Then it was gone, faded into the growing light like morning mist. I believe the highway recognizes its regular travelers. I believe it distinguishes between those who respect its rules and those who don't. I believe that something in those endless miles of asphalt keeps track, keeps score, and eventually settles accounts. My 15 years of adherence to the protocols earned me something from the road. Perhaps protection, perhaps simply tolerance. The knowledge I've shared with you now is yours to carry. The rules are yours to follow or ignore. The midnight highways stretch across this country, waiting for those brave or foolish enough to travel them. They will always be there, offering passage through the darkness, demanding respect in return. When you find yourself driving at 2 a.m., engine humming, headlights cutting through the void, remember what lurks beyond the pavement. Remember the red cloth and the phantom tow trucks and the silent road crews. Remember that you are sharing the highway with things that were ancient when the first trails were blazed. Respect the rules, trust your instincts, and whatever else you do, whatever temptations arise, whatever figures appear on the shoulder waving for help, keep moving until the sunrise grants you permission to stop. The highway is always watching. Make sure you give it nothing to find.